Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Coffee with Campus Consultancy. As always, these episodes are live. So if you're tuning in on YouTube today or on LinkedIn, jump in the comments, say hello, let us know what you're up to. In this episode, we're going to bring to you 6 amazing guests in the next 60 minutes to talk about how you can stand out even if you don't have any experience. If you're looking to get a leg up in the job market, develop skills, meet new people, we've got 6 amazing guests to walk you through what they did and what you can do right now this week to start your career growing and do some good in the process. To kick things off, I'm going to introduce you very quickly to our first guest, Laurence, for today. Laurence is an advisor for and former president of 2 Birds, 1 Scone, a program that's provided over 800 meals weekly to community members in hardship, all for free. With a huge background and a former student at La Trobe as well. Laurence, thanks for joining us and welcome.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
A pleasure. Mate, for those who, and I am as well, and we are as well, for those who aren't familiar with 2 Birds, 1 Scone, what is that all about and where did that idea come from?
2 Birds, 1 Scone was originally a student club and we became a registered charity, and it was started by Melissa Lee in 2016. She wanted to save food from food waste and also help people suffering food insecurity. So solving 2 problems with 1 solution, 2 birds, 1 scone. It's a little play on words there. And
very good.
My role really was just to implement this new program that feeds students as well. So just to increase the people we're serving.
Cool. And what was the role of volunteers in that network? Did you have people step up and help you out? How did that kind of develop?
Volunteers are really important. So at the start of this year, I was operating by myself with an esky and just giving out about 30 litres of meals with my car, and managed to get a few volunteers sign up. And that really allowed us to expand. They have their own ideas and it's good to work together with them.
Definitely. And why do you think volunteering is important? Why do you think it's something that young people, if they're tuning in today, students, or just people who are in a new field, even if they're a little bit older, but they're starting in a new degree or a new area, what do you think the power is of volunteering?
Volunteering is good because you learn on the job and you don't really realize that you're doing it, especially if it's something that, like a cause that resonates with you. So you're more interested in just getting the task done. And in regards to success in the job, that was the question, isn't it? Help students in the working world. Yeah. There's so many skills you can learn. Leadership, compromise, like you're working for a lot of different people. You're also doing it for free, so you have to balance your time well there and make sure that you can get the task done.
I like it. Talk to me a little bit about that time management piece. It's something that comes up a lot. People say, I'd love to volunteer, I'd love to do an internship or whatever it happens to be, but how do I find the time? So for you, how do you manage, or how did you manage and balance your time?
You just find the time. I guess sleep suffered a little bit for me initially.
How is that so?
But yeah, the good thing I didn't really address was because you're not getting paid, but you've committed to this, it sort of tests your integrity. But with time management, it's just about structuring your day and planning, all those simple things, making sure everything's written down and you've got your priorities set. But our volunteers always manage to get it done. And if things get too much, you can always talk to someone else and ask them to share the load. So.
Yeah, definitely. And for your experience as you were managing, obviously lots of different things, being a student and volunteering, did you see any crossover between the skills that you were learning volunteering and your degree, or vice versa? Did those 2 things benefit one another, or do you feel like they were pulling in opposite directions?
That's a good question, actually. We tried to have students, because we were all university student volunteers, serve in roles similar to their degree. So like the treasurer was someone in accounting and finance, and we had someone doing all our paperwork that was in law, things like that. So they got pretty good experience in that regard, actually. Matched up nicely, practical experience with their degree. Yeah. Myself, I was doing Bachelor of Biomedical Science, so it wasn't an obvious connection, but dealing with people and managing a team and all that stuff. That's important to medicine. You know, those things aren't so obvious, but these skills are applicable everywhere.
100%. And if people are tuning in and listening today, remember today we're talking about how to stand out even if you don't have experience. As we're going to dig into with Laurence over the next few minutes is how does volunteering help out? How does it give you these skills? How does it develop you? How does it set you up for success in the work world? So if you have a question, if you have a thought, make sure you pop it in the comments on LinkedIn Live, jump in the comments there, ask it, we'll pop it up on the screen, and whether we can address it with Laurence or one of our future guests, we'll make sure we get to it. We'd love to know what's on your mind, what might be holding you back from standing out or just getting started. So Laurence, on that note of lots of people obviously will hear about volunteering. If you're at university, there's no shortage of people saying you should volunteer, volunteer, volunteer. When the volunteers who came and worked with you, if there were any who did a particularly great job, ones who stood out, ones who went above and beyond, ones who just, I don't know, knocked it out of the park or just figured it out, was there anything in common you noticed as a president as what makes a great volunteer?
Someone who's interested in the mission and not actually the title. So I had this person started last year, and her focus really was on just providing meals to people. She was an international student herself. And that was our main goal, helping them during coronavirus.
Sure.
And she was very dedicated. She came in 3 days a week during her degree and just tried to help out as much as she could and ended up climbing the ranks and taking over. So you know, and that wasn't her intention at all. And she gained a lot of leadership out of that. She was quite shy initially.
Definitely. On that leadership point, my last sort of question I want to throw at you, and then I'll get you to do our fill in the blank, and I want to thank you, be really respectful of your time. You mentioned the leadership there, and it's come up a couple of times. We know that this is something that employers are screaming out for. A big part of our work at Campus Consultancy is doing leadership development. So I'd love to know from your experience, what do you think the importance is of developing leadership skills, even if you're at a student level and it's your first leadership role? Why do leadership skills matter?
I think leadership skills matter to like the obvious leaders and then just anyone in a team. Like to come forward with your idea and contribute, you need to have a bit of confidence and initiative and their leadership skills. So it doesn't matter which role you're in, it's always important. Like for me, it taught me to speak in front of audiences and approach people with my ideas with a little bit more conviction. People are quite helpful when you approach them in that regard. Yeah.
I love it. I mean, thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts in front of this audience today. Last question for you, Laurence, and I'm going to let you go and get back to it. Question on your number one learning from volunteering is, how would you answer that?
That you should be willing to fail. That sounds, you learn a lot from being willing to fail. Yeah.
I love it. My number one learning from volunteering is you should be willing to fail. Well, Laurence, thanks for definitely not failing us today, but thanks for showing up, sharing your insights, your expertise. I know you're still in your advisory role with Two Birds, One Scone, so if people want to check that out, we'll make sure we put a link in the notes to that. Have an amazing Tuesday afternoon, my friend, and thanks for tuning in and spending some time with us.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Alrighty, friends. Second guest about to come up. That was Laurence, Two Birds, One Scone. Make sure you check them out. Today, we're talking about how you can stand out, even if you don't have experience. We're talking about the power of volunteering, the power of social impact. And our next guest, we're going to talk about not just the power of doing it in the traditional way, but how you do it in 2021, how you leverage technology and the benefits that that can bring to having a great impact on the world and helping you stand out. So without further ado, in just a second, I'm going to introduce you to our friend, Matt. G'day, Matt. How you doing?
Hey, Josh. How are things?
Very well. How are things with you?
Yeah, good. Congrats on this event. It's an awesome concept. I hope it goes really well.
Oh, thank you, sir. And thanks for your time today.
No problem at all. Happy to be involved.
I love it. So for those who aren't familiar with your work, Matt, you're obviously co-founder and CEO of Vollie, an online marketplace that's unlocking a new style of skill-based remote volunteering. You sit on the board at RMIT University, a non-executive director with the Jane Goodall Australia, and is on the advisory committee for Global Citizen, chairman and Australian director for US-based NGO Duo Project, and a bunch of other things. Matt, I asked this to Laurence very quickly, but how the heck do you manage your time and your schedule with so many great things that you're up to?
you start, work hard and think the more hours you do in a week, the better. So it's gotten to a point now where I still work very hard and I still put in, a solid amount of hours each week. But you connect with the right people who can make your life easier. And yeah, some of those roles don't require as much of a commitment as others. So there's a few different things I'm doing, but I'm definitely balancing it with a good personal side of my life as well, so as not to burn out again, because I did that far too often in the opening years of Vollie.
Yes. And I would love to press you on that one a little bit. If people are tuning in and they're saying, wow, I can relate to that, I experienced that burnout. Was there any particular person that helped you with that journey, or was it a sort of a mentor, or how did you develop, I don't know, for lack of a better word, the skills there to manage it and avoid burnout in the future?
For me, it was more trial and error, unfortunately. I've had good mentors, I liked, and so yeah, trial and error. Did quite a few things right, but did plenty of things wrong. And I just learned through realizing it's not a sustainable way to run your working week. So yeah, that's the way I learned, really, and you get wiser as time goes on, and it's a bit of a trial by fire, whether you're launching a startup or trying something new in whatever professional side of your life it is. But once you do sort of break through that barrier, things do get a lot better.
Matt, you've mentioned so far today sustainability. You've mentioned and sort of spoken to some ideas of trial and error and things innovating and getting better. I'd love to talk to you today a little bit about, as we're helping students and young professionals think about how they can stand out even if they don't have experience. I'd love to chat with you a little bit about how technology influences this, how things are changing and how that influences the idea of doing good in the world and volunteering. So when we start thinking about technology and helping people stand out, what comes to mind with you, and how does that relate to what you're working on?
I see technology as just a great way for us to scale what we do, the impact that we can have, be able to connect with a wider audience, be able to streamline processes. Speaking specifically about Vollie and that whole process of volunteering, it can be a very so to be able to streamline that through technology is a powerful thing if it means that people can apply for opportunities within a few clicks. So technology is one of those things where it takes a long time to set up initially, sometimes a year, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. But once it is set up, things like impact tracking, streamlining onboarding processes, communication back and forth between different parties can be made a lot easier in terms of the growth of the organisation, but also in terms of just the day-to-day management of volunteers or charities' needs and requirements, whatever that might be.
Awesome. Matt, a big part of our audience obviously is working with universities, and we know Vollie's partnered up with some universities, has some really cool programs rolling out there. How does that work for students? If they're saying like, oh, this would be cool, and how do I know if I'm at a university that has Vollie? How would I tap into this? What does that look like in the university space?
Yes, and we realised a couple of years ago that there was a demand here for students to gain work experience, and for universities to be able to better connect their students with work experience, which gets them job ready. So we white label our software for universities. We actively understand the interests of the students and also the courses that they're studying, and then actively connect them with courses that are close to their heart. We connect them as part of a team or as an individual. And for the university, we track their impacts in real time. We provide them with quarterly reports. So not just the quantitative data, but the qualitative data as well. So it's about the meaningful connections. And with Vollie, it's online volunteering. It's all skills-based. So it's using your skills, whether they're developing or whether they're fairly established, to support an organisation that you really care about. But then it's also about being able to track that impact and the achievement of the organisation as a whole. So yeah, we work with RMIT University, we work with the University of South Australia, we work with Kangan Institute, Bendigo TAFE, and there's 3 or 4 big unis in Australia that we're getting pretty close to launching with as well, which we're quite excited about.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome to hear.
Thanks, mate.
Of course. You mentioned there about finding something that's close to your heart. And I understand the idea of if you've got the skills, you can jump on a great platform like Vollie, deploy your skills, do good, everybody wins. How do people figure out what's close to their heart if they're not sure? They're not sure what sort of organization they might want to work with. And obviously there's so many out there. If you're speaking to someone and trying to help them figure that out, what might you say or ask?
Just give it a crack. Just try it out. You know, I felt the same. Like I was going to, I was on a bit of a journey back in 2015 where I was just becoming aware of so many different issues in the world, and I was overwhelmed because I just thought, well, I want to support so many different causes. You know, environmental issues are very important to me, animal welfare, mental health, equality across so many different areas. And it is overwhelming, but you just get involved, give it a try. So it started for me. I saw a segment on TV about how the Lord Smith Animal Hospital works dog owners to go and visit kids in wards and brighten up their day and bring their 4-legged friends along just for a really wonderful and sometimes very emotional experience. And I just saw this and I just went for it. You know, you just give it a crack. It took a long time to get started, which was one of the big catalysts for me in terms of why I wanted to start Vollie and streamline that process. But from there, I heard about other experiences working at an animal sanctuary an hour north of Melbourne, a place called Edgar's Mission. So I went there, scooped chicken poop, fed wheat bix to little lambs and all sorts of random stuff, you know, essentially being a farmhand. So that it then snowballs. You just get into the space, you talk to people, you keep your ears open, and you just go on a bit of a journey. So I would encourage anyone to not procrastinate too much over trying to find that ideal experience, and rather just give it a go. And if it's a wasted day and you're like, that wasn't for me, you'll learn something from that, which will help you pause, but also the skills that you can be using.
Perfect. Matt, I want to be really respectful of your time and thankful. Obviously, we've chatted before, so people can check out a little bit more about that conversation if they want to go in more depth. One of the things I wanted to finish off with, and you're filling the blank, I want to speak to you a little bit very quickly about the power of mentorship. I know you're involved. You do a lot of mentoring, people coming up in this space. So for you to finish off, what's the importance of mentorship? Why does it matter?
It's essential. Mentorship is real world experience and guidance. You can learn a lot in a book, you can learn a lot in a classroom, you can learn a lot from working a particular role at a big business, but you know, that individual giving you a wart and all, like stuff, or joining a board or whatever that might be. Yeah, it's just so vital on your journey. And yeah, it's just you just want a genuine, authentic, just honest response from someone and guidance from someone around, you know, how they can do what they want to do moving forward. So mentorship is huge. I sought out mentors during the first year or so with Vollie, and that's kind of come around full circle now, where I now mentor social entrepreneurs, and I absolutely love it.
Amazing. Well, Matt, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for making everything available that you do. Thank you for your time today, and I wish you all the best in the future, my friend. Thanks for coming on. Oh, we might have lost Matt's audio there. Well, we'll send our thanks to Matt in the background. If you're tuning in today, how do you stand out without experience? What's the power of volunteering? What's the power of stepping up, leaning in, and taking on an opportunity where you can develop new skills, have new experiences, or as Matt shared there, meet new people and develop your networks? Our third guest today, we're going to dig into a little bit more of where does volunteering start? what's the transferable skills? What are the transferable skills you can develop? And where can that take you in the future? So to tell you a little bit more about that, we're going to bring on our third guest for today, my friend, Thenu.
Hey, Josh, how are you going?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Yeah, well, I've just started to get a little bit of a cold, though, with this change of weather, but otherwise doing well.
Oh, no. I hope you have a speedy and quick recovery there. Hopefully there's no, dare I say, the C word in the air, but...
Oh, no, none of that. So we're doing okay.
None of that. Beautiful. Thenu, for those of you who aren't familiar with your work so far, you're the CEO of Oaktree, Australia's largest youth-led international development agency. You've worked with a range of different nonprofits and across the international development sector. Thanks for giving us some time today. I'm really excited to chat with you.
No, of course. Always a pleasure to chat, Josh. I'm really excited to have this discussion.
Oh, thanks. So, Thenu, for those people who might be tuning in who aren't familiar with Oaktree, is it possible to press you for the 101? What is Oaktree? Why is its work important? And what do people need to know about Oaktree?
Yeah, really great question. So as you said, Josh, Oaktree is Australia's largest youth-run development organisation. So we started about 18 years ago with this mission to end poverty. And since then, we've sort of grown from there and realised that poverty is a symptom of so many greater systemic injustices, one of which is the lack of youth empowerment in developing countries. So right now, what Oaktree is focusing on is empowering and providing leadership opportunities for young people in developing countries, specifically Cambodia and Timor-Leste at the moment. And in the process, we empower a whole lot of young people here in Australia to take up opportunities and become global citizens and really find their place in the world and how they can help other people and young people in their same age group as well.
That's amazing. And from now, obviously, in the CEO role, it didn't start there. How did you find your place in volunteering to begin with? What drove you to volunteer?
Yeah, great question. So I've been asked this question a lot, actually, and I feel like I can't answer it without sharing a little bit about my family's own story. So my mum and dad came down to Australia during the Sri Lankan Civil War in the 90s, and they sort of built their life here from scratch. And throughout my childhood, there was this idea that I had received a drastically different set of life circumstances than a lot of my family who ended up staying in Sri Lanka. And from that, there was instilled in me this idea that I'm really lucky to have what I have right now and to always give back in some way. And so volunteering was a way in which that I could sort of get that out of my system, that feeling to really want to kind of level the playing field between myself and maybe some of my friends that I see overseas who didn't have the same benefits that I do. And so my volunteering really started from a young age with my parents, really. We went to homeless shelters, and when we went back to Sri Lanka, volunteered our time at different organisations over there as well. And after I finished high school, I sort of just continued that line. I volunteered for World Vision for a little bit. That's where my interest for development really came in. And then volunteering continued into more university-based things, becoming the president of a college, running a student society in that time. And I'm sure we'll talk soon about the transferable skills that come from that. But yeah, volunteering was really driven by that idea of wanting to give back in some way.
I love it. I think that's something that'll resonate with a lot of people, that desire that we have so much and then we have so much to give. And so one of the questions I think that comes up a lot there is, well, how do I direct that? Where do I start? Where do I go? And so what will I learn in the process as well? Because we've obviously got finite time. So I'd love to know for you, when you've got so many opportunities coming at you, sounds like you're volunteering all over the place, president of college, student clubs, World Vision, all these sorts of things. How do you think about picking where to invest your time in terms of doing good? Lots of causes out there. What was it about the causes that resonated with you?
Yeah, it's really tricky. I think there was two parts to this. So first of all, I think there's that really intellectual part where perhaps you're thinking a little bit more about yourself and where you want to go in the future. And so that's where things like being, the president of a college came from. Like, I really knew that having that experience would be really great for my career going forward. But then there's the second half of that, which is there's just like a feeling that I think most people get where they know the causes that they care about and matter to them a lot as well. And a lot of the work that I did in the development sector, for example, I think that comes from my my family history and the things that I've seen from a very young age. There's just that feeling that you have to trust when you see a cause that you know you're meant to be a part of.
Yeah, I love that. On the intellectual part, that idea that we're going to develop skills, we're going to get a lot out of volunteering. And one of the big things I really want to impress on people today, especially students if they're watching, is that you volunteer, you're going to love it. It'll be challenging, but you'll learn. And the things you learn are so helpful for your future career. They're exactly what employers want. So when it comes down to transferable skills, whether it's your experience or in general what you see at Oaktree and all the other organizations, what can be developed through volunteering?
Yeah, really great question, Josh. So I've been reflecting on this a lot, actually. And the job that I'm doing now as CEO of quite a large youth-run organization is not that different from what I was doing as a president of a residential college. It involves a lot of the same leadership skills, time management skills, stakeholder management as well. And to be honest, it set me up really well for this role. And that was a completely volunteer role at the time. And I perhaps didn't think of the consequences or the skills that I was gaining at the time either. But those skills are inherently so transferable and have served me really well. And I find myself drawing on a lot of parallels that I came through during my year as president, and now even in the last 4 months of this role as well. And I see it not just for myself, but a lot of our volunteers at Oaktree. So for those of you who don't know, Oaktree is mostly volunteer run. And so everyone from our policy officers to our director of finance, they're all volunteers who are mostly university students who are studying on top of volunteering. And the learning curve for these volunteers to actually run, for example, if we look at the director of finance, to run the finances of an organization is a huge learning curve. And while it is a volunteer role, will set you up tremendously well for whatever roles you take on going forward.
I love that. For you as CEO, if I can ask, is there a particular skill that in the time that you've been in that role, you've really focused on developing? You've said, I've developed all these great skills in the past, but now I'm in this role leading so many people. Is there one skill that you're thinking like, just a year from now, if I'm leveling up in that category, it'll really help? Is there something like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's so much. The last 4 months have been the biggest learning curve I think I've had in my whole life. But for example, conflict management was definitely something that I was exposed to in my previous volunteer roles. But I think it just gets escalated a lot when you're dealing with, lots of people, different stakeholders, and something that you might not fully able to comprehend until you get into a professional environment as well. So that's one thing that I'm personally trying to work on as well. It's not as easy sometimes as, getting people together for a sing-along, which I used to do at college. Can't quite do that in a professional environment. So it's not necessarily that it's not transferable. It's that there are other layers that you have to add when you do get into the professional environment.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Thenu, obviously with so much happening, with so many people that you're looking after, caring for, and doing so much for, I want to be really respectful of your time. But before you go, I want to chat to you and a little fill in the blank, and I'd love to just hear your thoughts behind this as well. With Oaktree having so many volunteers and involving so many young people as well, what do you think special about young people? If you were to fill in the blank, young people are what?
Oh, this is going to be a little bit cliche, but the future.
I like it.
And that's what I deal with every day working at Oaktree. Young people leading, demanding, and creating change is our sort of motto at the moment. And that's what we see, not just here in Australia, but across Asia Pacific and the world as well.
I love that. Can I press on that point of creating change, wanting change, demanding change? When it comes to actually creating change, is there anything in particular that Oaktree is working on right now that if people are out there and they're saying, hey, I want to get involved in this, I want to do something, where could they go? How could they find out more, and how could they get involved?
Yeah, great question. So actually next week, Josh, we're launching our annual Live Below the Line campaign. Many people might have heard of that before, but it's a peer-to-peer fundraiser where we challenge everyone to live on less than $2 a day for a whole week. So $10 for the whole week. And this is the extreme poverty line where a lot of the young people we work with and have worked with for the last 18 years are currently living within. And it's a challenge that people can all get involved. So I encourage you next week to head to our social channels, Oaktree, Live Below the Line, and to get involved that way and to really help young people and empower and get young people a head start in what is a really difficult year all over the world because of the pandemic.
Amazing. Well, hopefully a little bit easier because of all the work that you're doing, your team's doing, and everyone involved with Oaktree. Thanks so much, Thenu.
Thanks, Josh. See you later.
Speak soon. Very cool. And my friends, if you are just hearing about Oaktree for the first time as well, I really recommend checking them out. They're an amazing organization. I had a great pleasure of volunteering with them 10 years ago in 2011, right when Live Below the Line was kicking off, and I've done it a few times since. It's tough, but it's pretty amazing. And I promise you, if you get involved with it, it'll change your perspective on a few different things around the world. So we're 3 guests in: how to stand out, how to step up, how to do something right now to help your future career. Something that you can have access to that's a couple of clicks away, that you can sign up for, that you can volunteer and do good in the process. And our next guest is someone who's done exactly that. So without too much further ado, Vishwa, welcome, and thank you for joining me.
Hello, hello. How is it going?
I'm going really well. How are you?
Good, thank you.
That's good. Vishwa, it's great to have you here. It's great to have you here. It's always nice chatting with you. And if people aren't familiar with you and what you do, you're the founder of TEDxVictoriaUniversity, which is Vic Uni's first ever TEDx event series. You've worked as a student leader and been really involved in the international student community and representative in many organizations. Vishwa, for you, in your own words, the power of volunteering, why is it something that, with so many things that you could be doing, why is that something that you've put your energy into?
Well, volunteering to me, Josh, is not just a skill. Volunteering to me is a routine. It's a mindset. And that's something that I've incorporated in my own life. You know, once I started volunteering, I started realizing how it aligns with my values and how fulfilling it is. So it's not just about 1 hour or 2 hours of volunteering a week or something that you put in. It becomes a routine. So, you know, even if I'm on a railway station, or even if I'm talking to someone whom I don't know and I'm talking to them for the first time, I've developed this nature of trying to help them, trying to support them, and do as much as I can from my end, so that they feel better, or there is something that I can help with them, you know. So it becomes a routine. And this is something that I've just realized lately, that I've been incorporated that in my day-to-day life and even in my workplace. So that's how it helps. To me, it's more than a skill.
Yes. I've never heard someone phrase it that way, and I love it. Volunteering is a mindset. If you were to describe it a little bit, what do you think is that volunteering mindset? How do you see the world if you're looking through the lens of volunteering and of service?
It's you know, if you just imagine the world where everyone's ready to volunteer for each other, it's so beautiful place to be in, you know, and we all would love and to be surrounded by the people who are ready to help you. And if you are ready to help someone else, it's so fulfilling, you know. It's because there's nothing materialistic attached to it. Volunteering is something that you do for no reason, for just yourself to feel better, just to see someone else smile, someone else feeling better, and to help someone else. So there's no materialistic thing attached to it. So I think that's what makes it beautiful than anything else. And I think it would be great if everyone starts helping each other. And I don't think we would need a lot of, there will be no crime, I guess.
I love that idea that to imagine a world where people are ready and willing to help each other at a moment's notice. Like when you said, like, what an amazing, I think you said, like, what a beautiful world that would be. That's spot on, wouldn't it be? Like if you could just walk outside and there were people there. And we're in Melbourne this week for a week of work, and even we're in an apartment building. We're not used to that elevator style living, and it's really strange. You get in the elevator and people just like pretend the other person isn't there. It's like, this must feel weird for everyone all the time. And just when you said that, it made me think about the difference between, you know, if you got in an elevator and you said like, hey, how are you going? Like, I mean, it might sound a bit weird if you're like, can I help you with anything? But that mindset is really different to like pretending we don't exist.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful place if everything happens like that, you know. Simon Sinek, I think, also talked about an elevator. So that reminds me of a story. So he goes, when you're in the elevator and someone's trying to run, press open, or maybe just put your like feet in or something so that someone else can walk in. Don't just go like, sorry, you know.
Yes.
So he's like, be conscious about the things that you are doing, because it's gonna cost you nothing.
Yes.
So, yeah.
There's no cost to being conscious. I love that. Vishwa, you're dropping gems today. Now, tell me, I want to press you on something because I had the great pleasure of meeting you a little while ago. I've seen you do some awesome things. And in your own words, when you said you were starting university, you were a little bit timid, but then you've gone on to curate, found, lead TEDx Victoria. So how does one go from a little bit timid, a little bit nervous, to running this awesome, globally renowned kind of chapter of an organization?
Well, I'm not saying this because we are talking about volunteering today, but the answer to this is volunteering in the real sense. And when I say I was a timid international student, is because I had literally done nothing back in my home country, in the sense that there was nothing that I had done with responsibility, because I was surrounded by my parents and my loved ones, and everyone used to take care of me and the things around me. So there was that's why I say that I had done nothing, because there was nothing that could make a difference. I was just studying, I was just doing normal stuff. But then when I came here, Australia, I always say this, Australia is a land of opportunities, and you can do whatever you're willing to do. There are doors of opportunities, and you can just knock them, or you can build one. I know it's a cliche, but it's true. And that volunteering, so my journey of volunteering started from Victoria University, and I volunteered with CISA and different organizations, which left a lot of confidence within me. I started believing in myself, and I started believing other people, and I started believing in my team building skills, and everything just fall in place. And I curated TEDxVictoriaUniversity. And so I think volunteering in little events in small organizations or even big organizations, so that all helped me realize that there is something bigger that I can do. And so I think that gave me the courage to do something as big as TEDxVictoriaUniversity.
That's amazing. I loved your concept there of, you were saying with the volunteering, it's you can knock on the door or you can build one. I was wondering if you could expand on that a little bit. If people are saying, I want to go out there, I want to do something, I want to create something, but, I feel held back. I feel like I don't have the opportunity. What does it mean to build the door that you knock on?
Right. It's a really good question. And I think this is something that everyone struggles with. Many people want to do a lot, but they don't know how to do it, or just how to start with. So you don't really need to know the whole process, or you don't really need to have all plans of what you want to do. It's okay to not have everything perfect, or not have everything planned. You can just start doing something, and you definitely make it if you're willing to. So that willingness, that passion to do something, it can help you create the whole door, or the whole house, I would say. Because with TEDxVictoriaUniversity, as I said, so there was I had not created something just yet. I was volunteering at VU, I was volunteering at CISA and doing different things, but there was nothing of my own. But I had the courage to do it because I knew that I will be supported by the university. And I had people like you, Josh, that I knew I will be able to reach out to. And, we just talked about mentorship a while ago. And that's the importance of having those mentors around you whom you look up to, and you can learn a lot from them and steal their ideas. So, I think that helps.
I love it. And on your idea of, and very TED related, stealing ideas, borrowing ideas, combining them uniquely, my last question for you, Vishwa, if you were to fill in the little blank, what's an idea worth spreading?
Whoa, that's a big one.
In TED's world of ideas worth spreading all around the world, you've had some amazing speakers come through VU. If there's an idea that at this point in time, April 2021, that you wanted to share with the world, what do you think it might be?
I think the idea, I've got two words for that: just do it. Sometimes we feel discouraged with the fact that, no, my idea is not good enough, or it's not going to work out, and we just feel the self-doubt. But if you just do it, it's definitely worth spreading. There is nothing that you don't that you need to refrain yourself from. So just do it, and I'm sure it's worth doing. So just spread it across the world.
I like that. If it's worth doing, just do it. Very cool. Vishwa, thanks so much for your time today. If people want to check out the talks from TEDx Victoria Uni from last year, where's the best place for them to go and to view some of the work from the speakers who've been on your stage? Can they go through a YouTube website? What's a good place to go?
So we have got a website called TEDxVictoriaUniversity.com.au. That's our official website, and all the links to connect with us or check out the all the TEDx talks, that's all there on that one website. So yeah, that's where we can connect with.
Awesome. Vishwa, you're incredible. Lovely to chat with you, and continued success.
Thank you so much, Josh. It's always lovely chatting with you. Thank you.
Likewise. Speak soon. All righty, my friends, our fourth guest for today, Vishwa, talking about going from being timid, self-described as timid as an international student, all the way up to founding a new organization, building a team, and sharing some incredible wisdom with us today. Our fifth guest is coming along and will hopefully today share a bit of a different perspective than our previous guests. Someone who works with thousands of volunteers around Australia to do immeasurable good, and someone who I'm really excited to chat with for the first time. Stevye, hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, Josh. Lovely to be here.
Lovely to have you. Stevye, you're obviously National Volunteering Manager with OZHarvest, an awesome organization leading over 2,500 volunteers around Australia. When did that journey with OZHarvest start for you?
Yeah, so my first journey with OZHarvest actually started with a volunteer application, like a lot of people. So I was living in Newcastle previously and heard about this incredible organization that was doing something that seemed like common sense, picking up food that people were going to throw away, even though it was still good to eat, still nutritious, and delivering it out to local charities who needed that food and who didn't really have access to it otherwise. And I wanted to be part of that. I myself come from a background of financial insecurity. So being able to be in a place where I could then give back to people who were in that similar position was something that was really important to me. And so I submitted my volunteer application to OZHarvest Newcastle. I then promptly moved away from Newcastle.
Oh, no.
Yes, but it was because a job opportunity with OZHarvest in Sydney became available to be the New South Wales volunteer coordinator. And that is what my background is. My passion has always been volunteering, and it was just kismet. And so I applied. I took many a train down to Sydney, and here I am 3 years later, have moved on from the New South Wales coordinator role into the National Volunteer Manager role.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I might be one of the very few people who got a promotion during a pandemic. Pretty chuffed about that one.
It's like the segues are just coming off today. The question I wanted to lean into and ask you next was, in fact, obviously with moving around and food insecurity being a big thing that's popping up, we play in the university sector. We've seen lots of different student groups pop up in this space as well. COVID's had some obvious challenges. I don't think we even need to go into that anymore. But how has OZHarvest, your volunteers, your team, yourself, how have you kept the, I was going to say ship afloat, but with the canal, I don't know if that's appropriate anymore. How have you kept the vans on the road and the food being delivered where it's needed most?
Yeah, so we are largely supported by the hospitality industry. So it was a big shock in March of last year when that was no longer a reality. So we had to do what a lot of people did and pivot. So we kind of went from being a food rescue organization to being a food relief organization. So for the first time really ever, we were purchasing food on top of our additional food rescue, because I'm sure a lot of you remember for a couple of weeks in March, everyone rushed to the supermarkets and bought everything off of the shelves. So there actually wasn't a lot of food for us to rescue. And we're hoping that you used that food in your homes and didn't let it go to waste. So we had to buy food, but we were actually able to buy food from suppliers who had their business significantly decreased because of COVID. So it was a nice way for us to be able to support people who normally support us and support the growing vulnerable community. So in Sydney, we opened up a hamper support hub in Darling Harbour, and that was targeted towards international students and people with temporary visas, so folks who weren't eligible for other forms of assistance. And on our first day of opening in May, we had over 700 people lined up around the block to grab a food hamper. It was devastating. It was devastating to see. But luckily, we were able to keep that hub going for many months until people started getting back to work. And it was clear that there wasn't as big of a need in that space anymore. And now we've expanded out to have additional hubs in Lakemba and Granville, where we're seeing a little bit more of a need. And we anticipate a spike with the ending of JobKeeper as well. But we're happy to be able to have those there. We also opened up our second free supermarket in Waterloo. So anyone is able to come through and do grocery shopping, and it doesn't cost them anything, which is a real lifesaver for people who are in a bit of a pinch. So we did big pivots like many people, and we had to find different sources of funding, which is always tricky. But we've been very pleased that both the federal and the local governments have stepped in to provide extra funding towards food rescue. I have to apologize. I, like most people, am still working from home, and I have a very bossy cat, so you might hear him from time to time.
Not at all. That's amazing. That's great. I love it. And pets always welcome on any of the Coffee with Campus episodes we do, so that's fantastic. How do you, I want to dig into that a little bit. If you've got these different sort of pop-up things are changing, they're changing quite rapidly, there's a lot of uncertainty. How do you keep a volunteer team, and a huge one? Like, you can't have an hour-long meeting with 2,500 people every day. Like, when you're scaling something, your team, how do you help people stay motivated, keep their eyes on what they need to do, and not be just overwhelmed by the uncertainty of it all?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So we try to have more communication with our volunteers than less. We find that the more information we can give people, the better informed decision around their volunteering they can make, and the more likely they are to be connected to what you're doing. We are incredibly fortunate to have a highly motivated volunteer team. So, we've got about 2,500 volunteers across the country, and over 70% of them will volunteer in a year, which is, if you work in volunteer management as I do, is a huge amount of engagement. So we are really, really grateful and lucky to have that team who, during COVID, where a lot of people might have stepped back and said, actually, I don't feel comfortable doing this, I want to take a bit of a break. Our volunteers came to us and said, what more can we do? Can we volunteer extra shifts? Can we do this extra sort of thing? We had volunteers stepping in to call other volunteers to check on them. We had a really incredible response from our team. So it really wasn't difficult to motivate them, because we've done a lot of that community building before COVID hit. And I think that that's something that a lot of volunteer organizations are taking from this, is that if you do your community building, you don't have to do it later when it's an emergency. You can make it a slow build, which is the better way.
I love that. Yeah, if you've built the community, then you've got the community, rather than not having one and saying, oh, we need to rush to build one.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Question for you, quick fill in the blank before I let you go. And I'm just so appreciative of you sharing this. We absolutely love OZHarvest. It's a pleasure to be a proud supporter of OZHarvest at campus. I wanted to throw one at you, and you've sort of spoken to this already, obviously, but in your own words, an amazing volunteer always what?
Ooh, okay. So putting it back to the volunteer, I think an amazing volunteer always knows why they're doing it. We want volunteers who are connected to the purpose, connected to their cause. So an amazing volunteer always is connected to your mission.
That's beautiful. I love it. And if people aren't yet volunteering with OZHarvest, or aren't yet aware of all the good that OZHarvest is doing, where could they go? How could they get connected to the mission?
Super easy. We've just launched a brand new website this year that's beautiful. You'll see my ugly mug on it, so go have a look. Okay. It's www.ozharvest.org. And if you want to volunteer, I highly recommend having a look through our volunteer page. You'll see a background on all forms of activities that we do. We are across the country, everywhere but Tasmania and the Northern Territory. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get involved virtually as well. So submit a volunteer application, come along to one of our info sessions, and we would love to welcome you into the Yellow Army.
Amazing. Stevye, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all you do. And a pleasure chatting.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. It's great.
Love it. Speak with you soon. Bye. Awesome, friends. If you aren't yet aware of the awesome work that OZHarvest does, please go to the website www.ozharvest.org. They're incredible. And at campus, we're a proud supporter of OZHarvest, which means every single student who comes through any of our workshops, 50 cents is donated in honor of that student. So if 100 students come to a workshop, 50 cents each is $50 goes direct to OZHarvest from Campus Consultancy through that proud supporter agreement. So we love what they do. They're incredible. And also, if you've been following me on LinkedIn for a while, you know that reading books was a big part of my entrepreneurial and leadership journey. Ronnie Khan, who founded OZHarvest, has an amazing book called A Repurposed Life. So it's got I would say, the most beautifully written preface of any book I've ever read. It's just, if the preface doesn't grab you, I don't know what will. It's just a gorgeous book, an amazing story. So I'd really recommend going and checking that out. Now, our final guest for today, really excited, a former guest on Coffee with Campus Consultancy. So we've gone deep with Ben before, but today we're going to welcome back a man who's doing some incredible work in the NT. Ben, how are you?
Hey, Josh, it's great to see you. Great to be back.
It's great to see you too, mate. I feel like every time we catch up, you just get busier and busier. You do more and more. How's 2021 been for you so far?
It's been amazing. To be honest, 2020 was incredible. We did what we never expected we'd do. And our goal for 2021 is to do even better. So there are amazing things happening. And, it's great to be here and share what are we doing and what are we planning to do too.
I love it. And I'll let you speak to this, but for people who aren't familiar with you, you're the co-founder of the Kindness Shake, the NT's fastest growing nonprofit in 2020. You were the 2019 National Secretary for CISA, the Council of International Students of Oz, and the former president of the Charles Darwin University Student Association, and a bunch more. Ben, for someone who does so much for other people and as an international student yourself, where did that drive come from in you? Because there's lots of people who volunteer, but I don't see the white hot fire that you have in everybody. So where does that drive to give and serve come from, do you think?
That's a great question, Josh. I think I'm driven by results. I'm driven by kindness and by happy smiles. When I started doing things at a small scale, seeing how a simple thing could help one person or two people, and now being able to do stuff that potentially helps hundreds of thousands of people, seeing the progress, seeing the results, seeing that what you do is really making an impact in the society is something that really drives me. So being able to continue growing, continue learning, and assisting others to assist others is really, really something that I'm passionate about. So I think that's where that's coming from.
I love it. You mentioned assisting others to assist others, and I know bringing people together is a big part of not only the work that the Kindness Shake does, but your philosophy in working with people. Question I wanted to start with today is, in terms of leveraging networks, the people that you know, the people you go to class with or you volunteer with, how can that help people who are trying to get some experience, have access to new opportunities?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it's similar to to jobs, not only in volunteering, but really, it may not sound right, but in many cases, who you know is almost as important as what you know. Here in Darwin, of course, it's a small community, so we all know each other. But when you do the right thing, people will notice it, and when you continue doing it, then it's easy to spread that around. So I think being able to share that with other people, and use whatever connection you have to get through that goal that you want to achieve is really important. So obviously you want to be surrounded organizations or people that align to your goals, to your passions. So that is a way that you can create that proper connection. But obviously, a lot of the things, like some of the speakers mentioned, you're doing volunteering because you really mean it, because you're passionate about it. It's not, and people can tell. So obviously, don't be that person that's there just for those other reasons. But obviously, always keep focused and set what your goals are, and I'm sure that will take you where you want to be. So volunteering is in my top 3 of suggestions. for students, for young people, when they, whether they are starting their career or whenever they are, volunteer. It's just way too important.
I love that. That's brilliant. I was going to ask you about your other top 2 and your top 3, but volunteer. Knocks it out of the park. Mate, in terms of leveraging your networks and bringing people together, you built a really amazing team, truly amazing, and a diverse team, not only from backgrounds, but skill sets. You've got people who are so good at social media and design and marketing. How did you tap into those people that you knew and unite them around this vision of the Kindness Shake?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question as well. Look, there are different elements that are, that are involved here. In order for you to follow a plan, to follow a goal, you obviously need the right vision and the right people. So the vision, I kind of created it, what I thought our organization wanted to be. And then once you know exactly what you want to be, then you set some goals. And in order to accomplish those goals, then you need some, let's say volunteers. You need a team. You need a workforce to say. So we were really lucky because I was really lucky, and I've been always fortunate to be surrounded by like-minded people with different skills, with different aspirations, with things that they want to do, that have been leaders and have been doing good stuff for a long, long time. So obviously, when you are able to bring these people together, it only takes 2 or 3 really to start creating something, and then you start motivating others, whether they are just new in volunteering or whether they have been doing other stuff before. So when you are able to for example, bring 2 or 3 people that have already done good stuff, then that will for sure inspire others to join, because they want to learn, because there are already it's evidence-based what our goals are and what we're trying to achieve. And obviously once you have kind of build that team, then there are different ways on recruiting, I guess we call it. Social media is really important. So we're always out there sharing what we do, giving people an opportunity to come with us and join us. It's open to everyone, not only international students, not only cold individuals, so anyone can really join. And like I mentioned before, when you do the right thing, only good things will come back to you. So we many times like at this stage, we are in a position where we just don't have enough projects or enough activities to fulfill our volunteer demand. So people just want to come and help out and things like that, because the community have seen our growth and what we want to do. So as long as you stay focused and you continue doing what you want to do, good things will come.
I think that's a really compelling call to action for people, of putting something good out into the world, using your time, stepping up, talking to the people if people are looking for something really practical to do. I'd think of the different people that in your network, go to their LinkedIn page and see where did they volunteer, see the organizations on there. If you see someone who's a bit of a go-getter, a guest who's on one of the shows, or someone on LinkedIn, or even go to, to Ben's page or to anyone who you look up to, and just see where they started. And I'm always often surprised when you see someone they're doing something amazing now, Thenu, CEO of Oaktree. If you go to the bottom of a LinkedIn page and work from the bottom up, you'll see all the different experiences they've had. I think often it's easy to look at the penthouse, and we have to start on the ground floor sometimes.
And this is such a very, very good point, Josh, because that is exactly what happened to us. So many of our volunteers, they came because they want to be part of something else in the future, but they wanted to get more experience first in order to achieve that. So in many cases, we've seen it, for example, this year, lots of our volunteers or executives actually learn the basic skills, learn the things that are required when it comes to volunteering and working for a non-for-profit organization or others. And they learn these skills that actually have taken them to another level, to another stage, where now they are not only part of the kindness shape, but also other organizations, government, boards, and other things that actually really will make a difference. So being able to be influential and inspire others to show that we all started, from zero. We all started from scratch at one point of time, and obviously always remember where you started, so that you can continue helping others achieve what they want to do, and hopefully they'll be even better than what you have been.
I couldn't agree more, my friend. Last one for today, and as we wrap up today's episode, I want to put this question in front of you, a quick little fill in the blank. The power of kindness is what?
Oh, wow. I think the power of kindness is love, Josh. And what I mean love is not only romantic stuff. I'm just a full believer of karma. I'm just full believing of doing the right thing, of always, doing the right thing even if no one is watching. So I think when you realize that the power of positivism, of doing good things for the community without expecting anything in return, it really changes your mindset, because I think this is becoming a movement. This is what we want to achieve, is to showcase that no matter giving a good smile, an act of kindness on a daily basis, and sharing that around, giving your partner a flower, opening someone's door, I don't know, giving someone else's a cup or stuff like that is really it really makes an impact, not only on the society that we live, but also in the mindsets of people, especially these days with busy lifestyles, with the things that are happening around the world. So kindness is a very, very important word. It's a very important, I guess, skill. But love is probably what unites us all, no matter where we're coming from, no matter what we believe in, no matter what we do in life. Where there is love, there is hope. And, we will get there when we have a little bit more kindness, love, and hope.
Mate, amen to that. That's fire. What a spectacular answer. I couldn't agree with you more, mate. And if anyone embodies that philosophy, it's definitely you. Not just what you believe and what you say, but what you and your amazing team and community do. So a huge congratulations. Thank you for your time today, mate. We wish you and the Kindness Shake all the best of luck in 2021.
Thank you so much, Josh, for the opportunity. It's great to be back, and well done on this amazing project. This is brilliant, man.
Thanks, my friend. Well, we'll collaborate much more in the future, and I'll chat with you soon.
I'm sure. See you.
Right. Bye. And there we have it. 6 amazing guests in 60 minutes on your Tuesday, or if you're watching the recording on YouTube or a podcast, whenever you are watching this, we would love to know, what did you think? Who resonated with you most today? And you might listen to this once, twice, 3 times in the future, and something different will resonate. But right now, wherever you are, wherever you're at in your career, wherever you are in your year, whatever you're focusing on, what's the top thing that resonated with you today? If there was one thing that you were going to think about, take away, write down, or one action you were going to take, what would it be? Make sure you let us know. Either pop it in the comments or send us a message on LinkedIn or email it through to josh@campusconsultancy.org. We'd love to know what you think, what you're getting out of this series, and what you're getting from the guests. So 6 amazing guests today. Just as a quick recap, we had Laurence come on. Laurence as a president, a former president, and now advisor for 2 Birds, 1 Scone. We had Matt come on from Vollie, Vollie. If you want to check out Vollie, an incredible organization where you can volunteer online and do amazing measurable good. We had Thenu come on from the CEO of Oaktree. And as Thenu mentioned, a big project kicking off Live Below the Line next week. So make sure you check out Oaktree or Live Below the Line to get involved there. Fourthly, we had Vishwa, the amazing Vishwa, talking about TEDxVictoriaUniversity and her transformation from being timid into someone who's created her own organization. Pretty incredible. Make sure you go to the TEDxVictoriaUniversity website to look at some of those TED Talks as part of her team's work. Second, last, and definitely not last, we had Stevye coming on from OZHarvest, talking about managing 2,500 volunteers. That's 2,500 volunteers Stevye and her team are looking after. Check out www.ozharvest.org to learn about everything that OZHarvest is doing. And finally, the incredible Ben from the Kindness Shake, working up in the NT, who's built an incredible team, who's doing so much for the community. Check out the Kindness Shake and everything they're about. Thank you so much for joining today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be with you again very, very soon. And until then, all the best and have a great week. Bye-bye.